Hi, and welcome to Your Inside Power. My name is Patricia Stepler, and at Your Inside Power, I want you to learn how to utilize the powers that you have inside of you to create the life that you truly want. I want to start today with a quote, and this is from the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And he says here, "Those who have cultivated the habit of persistence seem to enjoy insurance against failure. No matter how many times they are defeated, they finally arrive up toward the top of the ladder. Sometimes it appears that there is a hidden guide whose duty is to test men through all sorts of discouraging experiences. Those who pick themselves up after defeat and keep on trying arrive. And the world cries, 'Bravo, I knew you could do it.' The hidden guide lets no one enjoy great achievement without passing the persistence test. Those who can't take it simply do not make the grade." Now, I want to keep that in mind as I talk about an acorn. You know, an acorn can grow into a mighty oak, or it can do nothing at all. And I want to compare that acorn to the dream that you have, because the dream that you have, the goal that you've been given, and we all have them, sometimes it's just a passing thought that comes into our mind. And if we start to think about it, we think, well, that might be kind of fun. But I want you to think of your acorn, the acorn seed, like a dream. Because a dream is a seed also that's been given to you. It comes from the ether. And when we have that dream, we have that idea, just like the acorn. If you do nothing with the acorn but hold it in your hand or put it in your pocket, it will never grow into an oak tree. The same way with a dream. If you just hold that dream as a passing thought, or stick it in the back of your head someplace, but you never really give any thought to it, it's not going to turn into a reality for you either. And that's where your inside powers come in. How can we take that dream and turn it into our reality? So let's go back to this. If you have that acorn and now you throw it out the window and it lands on the ground, is it going to grow into a tree? Probably not. You see acorns lying around the ground all the time, and they're not gathering roots and growing into a tree. Well, that's the way this dream is. You see, if you just have it and it just stays in your conscious mind, but you never really do anything with it, it just stays there. The worst thing that can happen with that dream is that 20, 30, 40 years go down the road and you come to the end of your life and you think, gee, wonder what would have happened if I'd have actually done something. See, as my friend Bob Proctor, who's my mentor and my coach for a year, he'd say that most people tiptoe through life hoping to make it safely from birth to death. And when their heart stops beating, it's just a mere formality, because we never really take the time to build that dream into the reality that we want. And so we get to the end of our life never having accomplished it, and maybe never having accomplished much of anything. And it's just a really sad way to look at things. So let's take that acorn again. And this time we plant the acorn in the ground. Now, that's like taking our dream, and you see, we have to move it from the conscious mind into the subconscious mind. So it's like taking it, the idea, and implanting it into our subconscious mind. Why do we need to do that? The subconscious mind is where all of our habitual thought patterns are. We call them paradigms. And one of that is our self-image. So if we take that idea and it's in conflict with who we are, our subconscious mind won't let us act upon it. And that's why so many people stay stuck, because their subconscious mind will absolutely not allow them to act upon it. So we've planted it into our subconscious. And again, it just festers there. It's not necessarily going to grow. And same way with your acorn. Just because you planted it into the ground, what if you planted it into a desert? Is it going to grow there? Probably not, because it's not going to get the water it needs. So just because you plant it doesn't mean it's actually going to grow into a tree. Same with your idea. Just because you plant it into your subconscious does not mean that you're going to allow it to grow into a goal. And remember, the subconscious controls your body or your action. So let's take that acorn a little bit further. So now we've planted it into the ground, and we planted it into the fertile ground in the climate where an oak tree will grow. And we've watered it and we've fertilized it. Now the odds of it growing into a tree are so much greater. So it's probably starting to take a little bit of root, and it's starting to maybe grow above the surface, and you're starting to see that plant arising out of the ground. Let's go back to our dream and our subconscious mind. So now we've planted that dream and we're nurturing it. We are feeding it with ideas. We're feeding it. We're starting to get a desire to make that dream come true. Well, as we do that, it too is going to take root and it's going to spring up. So it's taking root in your subconscious mind because you're starting to turn that dream into a desire. And that's the first thing Napoleon Hill says, the first goal or the first thing you need to become wealthy and think you grow rich is desire. You have to have a desire. If you have no desire, you don't do anything, right? You just allow the world to toss you around and do with it what it wants. When you have a desire, that's the first step. So we have that desire now, we've planted it, and we're starting to develop some ideas, some plans, some ways we might be able to reach that goal. We're at least thinking. All right, now let's go back to our acorn. Our acorn now, it's taking root in the ground, it's springing up, but you know what? All that ground has rocks, and the roots are having trouble getting through those rocks. Well, how's that relate to our dreams? Well, when the rocks in our subconscious mind are like the paradigms, and our paradigms may be saying you can't do it for whatever reason. Doesn't really matter what the reason is. Might think we're too old, too young, too not educated enough, too educated. I mean, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's all a lie anyway. But just like the roots in the oak tree are hitting those rocks and not being able to move very well, that's what happens in your subconscious mind. You hit those rocks of paradigms. And some of them are, things that you've done in the past, and it's going to remind you of something and say, well, you tried that before and it didn't work. So why would it work now? Some of it's going to be who you are, the image you hold of yourself. It really doesn't matter what it is. It's just hitting those habitual thought patterns, and it's keeping you stuck. So let's go back to our oak tree. Okay, so it's getting stuck in those rocks, but now it finds a way to go around the rocks and to keep building. Well, how's that work for our thinking? Okay, that's what we have to do. We have to get rid of those rocks and replace them with the ideas we want. You see, that's the way we change a paradigm. Sometimes people think they're working on their paradigm. And I remember Bob Proctor saying one time, he says, why would you do that? Why would you work on your paradigm? Just get rid of it. You have to change who you are. You see, if you're going to accomplish that dream, the person you are today is not the person that's capable or qualified to accomplish that dream. Why? Because if you were, you'd already have it. Doesn't that make sense? If you were able to accomplish that big goal and dream, you'd already have it. But you have to become somebody different. That alone means you have to build a new paradigm. You have to build a new image of who you are. What kind of person do you need to be? What kind of leader do you need to be? What kind of risk do you need to take? So we're building a new paradigm. We've hit that rock. We're making a new path. Okay, so that's what we have to do with ourselves. We have to create that new path. But as we just read here in this quote from Think and Grow Rich, he talks about these guides whose duty it is to test people and see how they do with discouragement. So let's go back to that oak tree. Maybe there's a really big storm and that oak tree, because it's not tall and strong yet, it's little and it's moving around. And maybe it's been damaged. Maybe a branch fell off. We know that's just like us. A storm hits us. Not a physical storm. Something goes wrong. We're being tested. You see, if you can just remember that every time something goes wrong as you're going towards your dream, it's a test to see how you will overcome it. It makes it a lot easier, doesn't it? You just say, oh, just another test. They're just testing me, see if I really want this or not. And I'm going to just keep persisting. I'm not giving up, because the only way I fail is if I quit. And you just keep moving around. So that's what disappointment is. It's just a storm along the way. It's no different than that oak tree being caught in a storm and a branch breaking off. What's it going to do? Just give up? If a broken branch, the tree, okay, that's it. I'm just going to wither and go. No. It's like, I lost one branch. I'll just make a new one. That's what you need to do. You lose a branch, you build a new one. So let's say, that we have that plan, it didn't work, and now something more comes. Maybe it's like the oak trees in a forest, and a forest fire hits. Forest fires can be devastating. I was just a few weeks ago, I was in Hawaii and we were on the Big Island, and our tour guide was explaining to us how when a volcano erupts and you have all that molten lava and you have all that fiery molten coming towards the trees, it's going to take out everything in its pathway. But sometimes, and it may take years, and they showed us different places on the island, and they would talk about, well, because there's some life here, some plant life, it's so many years old. Well, here's trees. So we know that, the last time that this one was devastated by the molten lava was maybe 50 years or 100 years ago. But new life will emerge, even in a forest fire. Forest fire can devastate an area, but eventually plants grow again. Why? Because it's persistent. Nature is persistent. It wants to have life. It wants to have abundance. You too should want to have life and abundance. So even if your plan doesn't work and you go bankrupt, you can still come back after that. Look how many successful people have gone bankrupt before they hit it big. I think Walt Disney, I think he went bankrupt a couple times before he hit it big. But he kept persistent because he had a dream and he had a goal and he accomplished it. And it didn't happen the first time. You see, this is one of the fallacies that we have, is that we think that success goes from here to here. And it's a straight line. It is never a straight line. I would love to know any person who had a straight line to success, because I won't believe it till I actually meet somebody said, oh yeah, I tried this and it worked, and I tried that and it worked, and I tried that and it worked, and I just kept moving and it was so successful. Nothing ever went wrong. I don't believe it. because Napoleon Hill tells us that there are guides trying to stop us to see if we're worthy of the good that we desire. So we have to persist. We have to persevere. We have to become the person that's not going to give up. This is why, as a mother, when my kids were little, if they wanted to do something, they had to follow through with it. I was not going to let them stop in the middle. So if they tried out for a sports team, let's say they wanted to play t-ball or, whatever, they had to finish the season. Now, if they didn't want to play it the next year, that's fine. But once they started something, they had to commit. I remember one time I was, did church choir, did a children's choir. And so we were going to do this performance. And, it was a little play and the kids all had their parts and I made them costumes and we had everything ready to go. And this one child was there, had a part, and then wasn't showing up. And so stopped at their house one day and said, hey, what's going on? Are they going to be there? And the mom's like, yeah. And she asked the child and she goes, yeah, she doesn't really want to do it anymore. You see, that allows her, as a child, that allows her to know I can quit if I don't want to do something. Now, see, with my children, if they committed to do something like that, they were going to do it. They needed to finish. And it wasn't that I was trying to be mean. I just wanted them to know that when you commit to doing something, you need to finish it. Now, if you didn't like the experience, you don't have to do it again. But once you start something, you need to finish. So let's look at Think and Grow Rich here for a minute, because we've talked about a couple things, and I want to just give you some insights into what Napoleon Hill thought about the different keys to getting rich or to wealthy. And, when I'm talking about riches, I'm not just talking about money. I don't want you to get the idea that the only thing out there is money, because it's not true. But money does make things better for most people. And there's a lot of things you can't do with money. Without money. But so when we're talking about riches, it doesn't necessarily have to be money riches. It can be riches in you, riches in your personality, riches in your relationships, riches in your health. So don't take riches as just a monetary thing. Well, what he says here in his chapter on desire, he does an entire chapter on desire. And he says that desire is a starting point for all achievement. And it's the first step towards getting rich. And he goes on to explain, and he tells a story in here, but he is explaining that it has to be a burning desire. It can't be just one that's sitting in that in a conscious mind like we talked about. It has to become a burning desire to the point where it's possessing you. You just have to have it. You can't see, but over on the side of my wall, I have a whiteboard. And for me, my burning desire is travel. I want to see the world. And I love to travel. And sometimes I take my entire family, my kids, their husbands, my grandchildren. Sometimes it's just my husband and I. Sometimes I just go. But it's travel. And so I have this whole list of places that I want to see. And I don't just have a list. I have a year beside it. This is what I'm going to do in 2023. This is where I want to go in 2024. This is where I want to go in 2025 and 2026. And, each one I can just erase as we get here. And here's the magic in that. And I suggest you do whatever your burning desire is, write it down so you can see it. Make out a little plan. This is a very vague plan. It's just places. But what I want you to realize is earlier this year, it was like, we hadn't gone anyplace. We went on a long cruise last year, and we were gone for nearly a month. And then I was gone within a week. I was gone again down to help take care of my granddaughter. I was gone for nearly a month. And then I came back and I had a 2-week business trip. So I was gone the entire summer. So it was like, I was tired of travel. I couldn't believe it. But, after about 3 months, I was tired of travel. So I realized we hadn't really gone any place. We did eat a little thing at Christmas time, but I really didn't consider that a lot of travel. And so it's like, we need to go someplace. And so in February, we just decided, okay, we're going to go on this trip to Hawaii in March or in April. And so it was really impromptu. But you know what? That was on my goal to do in 2023 was to go back to Hawaii. It was the second time back to Hawaii. That was my goal. So I was like, that's what we need to do. Then I had another trip and I'm going to do that in about 6 months. And so you just have to keep that desire there. So Napoleon Hill says the burning desire to win is essential for success. You have to have a burning desire. You have to know where you want to go. And so then he gives this plan of how to, this method for desire. So I just want to share this with you. He says the first step, the first thing you do is to fix in your mind a definite amount of money that you desire or a definite goal, whatever it is, to travel and have that definite goal there. And then you have to determine exactly what you intend to give up. What are you going to do? Now, when I first read that, the first time I read Think and Grow Rich, I thought, what do I intend to give up? To me, it's not just intend to give up. It's not like, well, I have to give up doing this for my kids so that I can accomplish that. No, to me, it's more like, who do you intend to become? What are you willing to give up of who you are today so that you can accomplish that? What will you give up about who you are? And he says there's really no such thing as something for nothing. So you have to give up who you are, and chances are you're going to do something different, right? 30 says establish a definite date which you intend to possess the money you desire or the goal that you desire. Set a deadline, because if you just say, oh, I'd like to do this sometime never comes. 40 says create a definite plan for carrying out your desire. And listen to this, and begin it at once. Whether you're ready or not to put that plan into action, start today. Do something every single day to move you towards your goal. Why is that important? Because you get focused on your goal and you become so locked into what that goal is that you're not forgetting it, even if somebody just takes 10 minutes. It's like practicing an instrument. When you first start an instrument, it's hard. It's not an easy thing to learn how to play an instrument. And it's difficult, but if you do a little bit each day, eventually you're going to get to the point where it is easy and it's enjoyable. Well, that's what you need to do with your goal. Do something every single day. And 50 says, write out a clear, concise statement of the amount of money or the goal you intend to acquire, name the time limit for its acquisition, state what you intend to give in return for that money, and describe clearly the plan through which you intend to accumulate it. Okay. And then he says 6, read your written statement aloud twice daily, once just before retiring at night and once after rising in the morning. And as you read, and this is so important, feel and believe yourself already in possession of the money or the goal. Feel yourself. You have to have the emotion behind it. Getting a goal is not just goal achievement is not just setting a goal. It's not an intellectual thing. It's an emotional thing. And then once you do that, here's the next part. You have to persist. Later on in the book, he says the eighth step towards riches is persistence, the sustained effort necessarily to induce faith. Why do you have to induce faith? Because you have to believe that you can accomplish it. Again, if you already had the belief and the faith that you could accomplish it, you already would have. But you have to find that belief. It says persistence is the essential factor in the process of transmuting desire into monetary equivalent. The basis of persistence is the power of the will. Willpower and desire, when properly combined, make an irresistible pair. It says here, the majority of people are ready to throw their aims and purposes overboard and give up at the first sign of opposition or misfortune. The few carry on despite all opposition until they arrive at their goal. And those are the ones that we know as successful. You see, we often see successful people and we think they're lucky. No, they were persistent. Because why? Because there are guides, hidden guides, whose duty it is to test men and women through all sorts of discouraging experiences. And those who pick themselves up after defeat and keep on trying arrive. And the world cries, bravo. I knew you could do it. They probably say, good for you. I knew you were lucky. There is no luck. The hidden guide lets no one enjoy great achievement without passing the persistence test. Those who can't take simply do not make the grade. And there you have it. That's what you need to do. Think of yourself. Think of that acorn. Think of how that acorn turns from that acorn seed into a mighty oak. And you too can take that dream or goal and turn into the mighty person you need to be in order to accomplish the goal. If you have questions or you need some help, I put in there a link to a breakthrough session with me. I'd love to help you because I want to see us all turn into the mighty oaks, the mighty people that we can be by utilizing our inside power and becoming the person that we need to be.